the second foundation, and it deals on disciplining the soul, refining the character, and curing the sicknesses of the heart. And we are currently busy discussing akhlaq and character. And Ibn Qudama rahimahullah, when he discusses character, he mentions to us that indeed the character, it is from the greatest qualities of the awliya and the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That one day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked, Ya Rasulullah, that what is bir, what is piety and righteousness? And then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied that righteousness and piety is to have beautiful character. And for this reason, the ulama mentioned that one of the greatest signs of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are close to Allah, is the character of the person. And that's why it is so important for us that we take our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as our role model, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created him in the best and given and blessed him with the most beautiful of character. No one can come to the character of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for that reason, we try to copy Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, learn from the life of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and specifically how we dealt with certain circumstances and how we portrayed and how we presented himself with others. And then the author has mentioned also that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, قَسَّمَ بَيْنَكُمْ أَخْلَاقَكُمْ كَمَا قَسَّمَ بَيْنَكُمْ أَرْزَاقَكُم. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, says Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah is decreed and Allah has divided beautiful character, like how Allah has divided wealth in this dunya. Like how Allah gives different people different amounts of wealth, likewise Allah has given different people different levels and qualities and different type of characters. And he mentions that this is so, like how we strive in this dunya, some work harder than others. Some earn their money on very easily. Likewise, character, some of us were born with good character. But for some of us, naturally we don't have beautiful character. And for us, we need to strive harder and we need to work harder to acquire beautiful character. And as we've mentioned, one of the ways, if you're not naturally blessed with it, learn and read the virtue of character so that we can be inspired at how beloved it is to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is one of the ways we can acquire and learn and pick up beautiful habits and akhlaq. And then the author mentions, and he moved on and he said in the section 1, we briefly mentioned a few points, and some of the important points that is mentioned, where he discussed it, he says that the ruh of a person, like we have our physical structure, then we have our spiritual structure, our ruh. And he's mentioned that the ruh, it is a reflection, or rather our akhlaq is a reflection of our ruh. Our akhlaq is a reflection of our spiritual state. If you have beautiful akhlaq, it's a good sign in terms of our spiritual state. If a person has evil akhlaq, filthy akhlaq, it is a reflection of his internal state, his spiritual state. And that's why he mentioned, he says it's the akhlaq of a person, it is a true reflection of what's happening inside of the person. And that's why we should always make the dua. And we mentioned many times Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make the dua that, oh Allah, grant my internal state, grant my internal state to be better than what is outside. Because many times we focus on what people see, but we forget what is really happening inside, which is a reflection of who we really are. And for that we need to reflect, and every person needs to reflect over his shortcomings and where he needs to strengthen himself in terms of his character. And Ibn Qudama rahimahullah, I mentioned one of the important points is where he mentioned that some of the people say that, when you have evil character or bad character, then you must just live with it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like how when you are certain features Allah has given you, you don't go to the extent of changing the features. You accept the features and you carry on. Qudama rahimahullah says, no, that character is not like that. He said, character is something that we can change, it's something that we can train. And he mentioned, he gives the example of how we find, for example, wild animals, horses, dogs. These type of animals, the human beings have the ability to train them, To the extent where the dog will obey the command of the owner. If the owner says sit, he will sit. If the owner says eat, he will eat. Likewise, the horse, which is a wild animal, when it is tamed, that horse will be trained on how to walk in a certain manner, how to do certain tricks. Why? Because he's trained. He said, imagine that is something Allah has given. No aql, he doesn't have intellect. Yet Allah has created us in the best of forms, me and you as mankind, as insan. How not can we not tame and train ourselves? When we find evil and wild qualities inside of us, how can we not tame ourselves? How can we not train ourselves and try to beautify these characteristics? So he mentioned and he proves the point that no, there's no such thing that I cannot change my character. A person always have the ability, with effort and dua, the person will have the ability to train himself and to beautify his character. And the last point that we have mentioned this morning that we have discussed is where Ibn Qudama rahimahullah mentions that when we speak about beautifying and rectifying our character, it is not to mention, it is not to say that we need to rid ourselves from all of these negative qualities, if you may call it. And he mentioned the example, for example, anger, sexual desire, the desire for food. He says Allah has created these qualities naturally in a person. So when we speak about disciplining these qualities or disciplining the character, what is important for us to remember, he says, it is to bring a balance, it is to hit the middle path. It is to be moderate in our approach. He says if we strive to take away the desire of food, then we will end up dying. Why? Because we need to eat to live. He says if you take away the desire of sexual desires, there will be no progeny that will come. He said, if you take away the desire, the emotion of anger, you will find that the Sahaba radiallahu anh, they would have never stood up against the mushrikun and those enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because the root of it was to stand up against your enemy takes anger in the heart. But he says the important thing is to be moderate in these qualities. So when we speak about purification of the soul and purification of the character, it is to be moderate in our qualities and our characteristics. And he mentioned beautiful ayat in the Quran where Allah explains, Ashidda'u ala al-kuffar, severe against the unbelievers with the Muslims at the time of Rasulullah, and describing the believers as severe. Severity can only arise from anger. And Allah mentioned, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, those who suppresses their anger. Allah doesn't say those who don't have any anger. He says beautiful, Allah doesn't say those who don't have anger. Allah says, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, they suppresses their anger. So we need to strike the balance. We need to know when to become angry, to what extent must I become angry. We need to know that, for example, our sexual desire, when it is permissible to fulfill that sexual desire. And when are we crossing the boundary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We need to know when our desire for food, we need to know when am I crossing the boundary, when am I overeating and overindulging to the extent where shaitan will overpower me and use it to misguide and take me on the sirat al-mustaqim. So all of these qualities and characteristics that we find inside of ourselves, these are things that Ibn Qudama rahimahullah mentioned. The ultimate goal is not to eradicate and to remove all of it, but it's to be moderate in our approach. It is to be moderate in when we're disciplining the soul and disciplining the character. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq and understanding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to beautify our character for none other but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to give us a tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillah.